Alrighty, folks, welcome to the video here for NFL Week 3. We actually did cash in on 2 out of our 3 premium NFL tier membership picks on my premium page for Week 2. And the good news is, folks, I have 3 more NFL tier membership picks going off here for Week 3. And the good news is, if you sign up for my premium NFL tier membership, you're going to get access to that package each and every day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. Now, I currently have over 780 members who are signed up and active on my premium site right now. And you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my premium site. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport, side, and total. What I do on my premium page is I actually share with you which one of these free picks I actually like the best. And if you like the channel, if you like the free plays, but you don't need access to all of my premium selections, you only need maybe one a day, you may want to think about signing up for my $1.99 daily best play. It costs just $1.99 for 30 days of service. The math works out to be just 6 cents a day. And that's right, you're going to receive one premium selection of mine every single day for the next 30 days. And of course, if you want to go on the other side of the spectrum and you want all of it, you want to access all of my premium content, you want every single play I put out each day, you may want to think about signing up for my full access, all-inclusive chairman package. Chairman members get access to every single personal play of mine, every single package, every single day for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you also get access to my Chairman podcast absolutely free. It's included with your purchase. Once again, that site's patreon.com/BrockPage. The link is in the description section below. And with that, folks, let's go ahead and dive into some free content. Giants at the Niners, 8:15 Eastern kickoff Thursday night. The Niners are minus 10.5, totals 44. And we did see a half a point move toward the Niners in the early going here. We also saw a 1-point move downward on the total. The Niners opened 10 flat, up to 10.5. Total open 45 down to 44. And even though the Niners left that back door open for the Rams in week 2, that was a wildly rare and suspicious occurrence. Very unforeseen cover by the Rams there. Unexplainable, excuse me. Certain bettors were actually able to get the Niners at 7 flat, so it wasn't as disastrous for some people as it was for people who got the 7.5 number. So for a good amount of people, it did end up being a push, although man, that's still tough. That was like a guaranteed win there. Now, defensively, obviously, the Niners are great at slowing down the run. San Francisco has a top 3 rush defense. Dio Lenore, he's the club leader in tackles. Fred Warner is right behind him with 19 tackles through 2 games. And although Nick Bosa is incredibly disruptive on the pass rush, it's actually Drake Jackson who leads the organization right now in sacks with 3 of them. Now, offensively, on the other side of the football, the Niners up front have really controlled the line of scrimmage. San Francisco's averaging a league-best 5.6 yards a carry on the ground. And, of course, Christian McCaffrey, he's got 268 total yards on the year and a couple of scores. And that's certainly bad news for a Giants defense who's 26th right now in rush defense. And aside from allowing more points a game than any other club in the league through 2 weeks, the G-Men are also dead last in first quarter points allowed. So look for those Niners to start off hot and heavy. Now, offensively, obviously, Saquon Barkley is once again injured. The rushing element affected heavily for the G-Men. And when it comes to that quarterback position, Daniel Jones, he's thrown 3 picks, fumbled it once. He's been sacked 10 times already. This O-line has been pretty putrid through a couple of weeks. Now, more bad news for the offensive line. Thomas and Bredeson have been ruled out. McFadden and Ojulari banged up on the defense for New York. Keep an eye on them. Meanwhile, for the Niners, Brandon Ayuk is questionable with a shoulder. Although I don't think that injury is going to impact the game too much, considering the Niners are probably going to run all over these guys. Now, total-wise, this game's being featured as my $1.99 daily best play for Thursday, September 21st. So if you want to see whether I'm pounding the over or the under in this one, this game is once again being featured as my daily best play. The link for my site is in the description section below. But as far as making a free pick is concerned, give me the 49ers minus 10.5. All right, next play, moving into Sunday. Colts, Ravens, 1 o'clock Eastern start time. Baltimore's the 7-point favorite at home. Total's 45. Now, we actually saw a 1-point move toward Indy in the early going here. Movement upward on the total as well. The Ravens open 8 down to 7. Total open 44 up to 45. The Ravens are 2-0, and they successfully covered the point spread in both of those ball games. And I really think this Baltimore defense is going to smother Indy. They're in the top 5 in the league right now in yards allowed per play. Roquan Smith, he has a team-high 21 tackles. Patrick Queen's right behind him with 19. When it comes to offensive production, no real shock here, no real surprise. The Ravens are in the top 5 in the AFC in rush yards per game. Lamar Jackson and Gus Edwards, they're both averaging over 5 yards a carry, doing some damage whenever these guys touch the ball. And they're facing an Indy defense who does actually defend the run quite well. But if Baltimore commits a little bit more to throwing the football, they're probably going to be able to throw it over the top. This Indy secondary is in the bottom 5 in pass yards allowed. And this Colts defense is also broken down late in ball games as well. They're nearly dead last in fourth quarter points allowed. And obviously, you got that injury to quarterback Anthony Richardson, currently in concussion protocol. Typically, I'm optimistic with injuries, but I don't know about this one. I don't know if he's going to be ready for Sunday. Tough to say if he's going to suit up or not. But even if he does end up playing, I'm not sure he's going to be able to do enough to neutralize this Baltimore defense. Now, once again, injury-wise, Kelly, Moore, Stewart, Nelson, and obviously Richardson, they're all currently listed as questionable for Indy. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, Beckham, Hill, Clowney, and Duvernay, they're questionable for them. Give me Baltimore -7, under 45. All right, next matchup, Titans, Browns, 1 o'clock East. Cleveland's the 3-point favorite at home. Total's 39.5. And we are seeing line movement toward the Titans and the under. Cleveland open 3.5 down to 3. Total open 40 down to 39.5. And as much as the media has been shitting on Deshaun Watson, well, he did have several drives through week 1 and 2 where he looked really dangerous and in complete control. It was just those costly turnovers that really overshadowed the things he's done right, and rightfully so. I get that, but Deshaun isn't helpless, and the media narrative right now is that he can't do anything right, and that's not true. Now, of course, you've got that devastating injury to Nick Chubb. I know that's going to affect public bettors. They're going to overreact to that. They always do to injuries. But the fact of the matter is, this Browns O-line has opened up those holes for Chubb. And you got to keep in mind, the backup Jerome Ford, he's rushed for over 4.5 yards a carry. So I get it. He's not Chubb, but the Browns can block. They can open up some holes. So, plug and play. Put somebody else in there that can run and gain your yards on the ground. The Browns actually lead the league right now in rush yards per game. So, like I said, even with the absence of Chubb, I think you're still going to be able to move the ball on the ground with a non-starter. And on top of it, well, this Cleveland defense is definitely going to keep you in it. They look solid against their NFC North opponents through week 1 and 2. You're going to need a couple turnovers from them. You're going to need some good field position from them. But I think you're going to get that The Browns are allowing just 3.9 scrimmage yards per play. That's almost a league best. Now, they're also limiting opposing quarterbacks to a 46% completion percentage. That's best in the league. And, of course, we're still looking at a Tennessee team on the other side who's little threat throwing the football. They've been that way for the last 5 seasons. Tennessee's in the bottom 3 in QBR right now. Meanwhile, on the defensive side, well, this Tennessee secondary is very shaky. They're allowing over 280 yards a game through the air. Now, injury-wise, the Titans are very banged up right now at the moment. Autry, Gifford, Kendall, Tart, Landry, Hooker, Skoronski, and Derrick Henry all listed as questionable. Meanwhile, for the Browns on the other side, Cooper, Taki, Wills, Walker, and Zadarius Smith, they've been all limited in practice this week. Keep an eye on them. But regardless of those injuries, give me the Browns -3 over 39.5. Next matchup, Falcons, Lions, 1 o'clock East. Detroit's -3.5. Totals 46 and a hook. Now, we did actually see a half a point move toward Atlanta and the under in this one. And I'm not sure if you're aware of it. The Falcons and Desmond Ridder, they're 2-0 on the year. Nice wins over Carolina and Green Bay. Now, this Falcons defense, they're defending the pass quite well. And I get they faced Young and Love in their opening 2 contests, but still, you got to consider the fact that this Atlanta secondary allows fewer yards a game through the air than any other franchise besides one. Meanwhile, on the offensive side of the football, Atlanta's going to have to continue to run the ball well. They've done it. They're already a top 5 rushing team in the NFL at the moment. Bijan Robinson's averaging over 6.1 yards a carry. Tyler Allgeier's also averaging 62 yards a game as the RB number 2. Now, they're going to have to neutralize this Detroit defense, who is 28th in points allowed per game. They actually gave up 37 to Geno Smith and the Seahawks just a few days ago. Joseph and Mosley are questionable on defense for the Lions, a little bit banged up there. And, of course, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he's on the IR. The ski mask, not getting it done. Now, total-wise, both teams saw their Week 2 matchups get over the number. Give me Atlanta +3.5 over 46 and a hook. Next matchup, it is going to be Saints-Packers, 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. Green Bay's the 2-point favorite at Lambeau Field. Totals 42.5. And for a team laying a couple of points here, I think the Pack's going to have a tough time moving the football. They're facing a very tough defense in New Orleans. The Saints are actually in the top 5 in yards allowed per game. They're holding their opposing quarterbacks to just 56% passing. And that's certainly bad news for Jordan Love because he's completing only 55% of his passes, and the Pack has no running game to back him up. Green Bay is 25th in the league right now in rush yards per game. And even more bad news, running back Aaron Jones, he's still not practicing. He's battling that hammy. Now, once again, the Pack's facing a physical Saints defense who loves stopping the run. New Orleans actually in the top 3 in the NFC in yards allowed. Demario Davis, he has 17 tackles. Granderson with 2.5 sacks up front. When it comes to the injury list, defense is pretty healthy for the Saints right now. Offensively, Moreau, Williams, and Hill are questionable. But that New Orleans D, pretty healthy, pretty physical. Now for Green Bay on the other side, Bakhtiari and Jenkins are banged up on the line. Jones, Gary, and Van Ness are also questionable. When it comes to the total, New Orleans is 2-0 to the under this year. Probably want to look for more of the same here in this game. I think that Saints D is going to make life pretty uncomfortable for Jordan Love. Give me the Saints +2 under 42.5. Next matchup, little divisional game here. Texans, Jags, 1 o'clock East. Jacksonville is the 9-point favorite at home. Totals 44. And in the early wagering here, we're actually seeing a 1-point move toward the Texans and the under. And call me crazy, but I actually do think the Texans can cover this number here. They've actually thrown for a bunch of yards with the youngster. They're actually in the top 5 in pass yards per game. Meanwhile, this Jacksonville secondary is in the bottom 5 in the AFC in yards allowed through the air. I think C.J. Stroud can have some success moving the chains. He's thrown for over 625 yards through just 2 games. Hasn't turned it over yet either. And if you don't know who Nico Collins is, well, I guess I really don't blame you. I don't know how many fantasy teams he was on. I don't know how many teams he was on. I don't know how many people drafted him, but he might be on some teams now because Stroud's completed 13 passes to Collins for 226 yards already. Meanwhile, the Jags on the other side, well, they've looked a bit one-dimensional offensively. They're throwing it a bunch of times, and they're certainly not running well. Jacksonville is gaining under 3.5 yards per rush. They're also in the bottom 5 in the AFC in offensive yards per play. They did suffer a Week 2 loss to Kansas City, where they were held to just 9 total points. Allen Jones, Fatukasi, and Wingard are questionable for the Jags. Pretty important pieces to the D, so keep an eye on them. Meanwhile, for Houston, they are pretty banged up themselves. Hey, listen, I'm not telling you they're going to win the game, but I think they can keep it within 9. But anyway, for the Texans here, Petre, Ward, Fant, Grenard, Dell, Perriman, Tunzel, Thomas, and Murray, they're all listed as questionable. C.J. Stroud was also limited in practice with that shoulder, but they're going to get him ready to go. It's a divisional game. It's a game that they probably have a chance to compete in, so I think they're going to shoot him up or get him ready to go. I think we're going to see Stroud in action here. Now, total-wise, I think both quarterbacks can probably have some success in moving the football. I wouldn't say either team has a stifling defensive units. Both teams have played divisional rival Indy, and both teams saw those contests get over the total respectively. So I'm going to lean toward Houston plus 9 over 44. The next ball game, Broncos Dolphins, 1 o'clock East. Miami's -6 at home, totals 48. And I am looking for the Dolphins to continue to roll here. 2-0 straight up, 2-0 against the spread. Offense looks great. Defense looks lackluster, but I don't see Denver outscoring the Fins. And if you're just going to outscore everybody, I don't care how bad your defense plays. Score more points. Do what you got to do. Tua's thrown for 715 yards already. Tyreek's averaging over $125 a game. And no real surprise here, Miami's leading the NFL in yards per contest. Now, before we go writing off this defense, there has been a lone bright spot for Miami. The secondary does a nice job at times keeping things in front of them. They're actually allowing just 7.4 yards per completion. That is nearly a league low, so as bad as they've been, there is a positive there. They're also facing a Denver team that's heavily penalized on offense. They keep shooting themselves in the foot, really hurting their drives. These guys average more penalties on offense than any other team besides one. Meanwhile, on the defensive side of the ball, well, more of the same. The Broncos are in the bottom 3 in penalty yards given up. A very undisciplined team in the early going here, both sides of the football. This Bronco defense is also allowing opposing quarterbacks to complete over 72% of their passes against them. They're also giving up a lot of points in the fourth quarter. Simmons, Clark, Bowles, Purcell, they're all questionable for the Broncos. Meanwhile, for the Dolphins, they do have a whole bunch of guys on that injury list. So keep an eye on the following names: Campbell, Hill, Joseph, Ahmed, Davis, Croft, Van Ginkel, Phillips, Armstead. They're all questionable. And, of course, once again, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, both wide receivers, they're officially listed as questionable as well. Although I don't think Miami will be overly transparent with their statuses this week. I've got to imagine we'll probably see both of those guys in action. Probably not as hurt as maybe they're leading to believe. But anyway, total-wise, both teams saw their Week 2 matchups get over the line. Give me the Dolphins -6 over 48. Next ball game, Chargers, Vikings, 1 o'clock East. The LA Chargers are the 1-point favorite. Total's 54. Now, we did see this line flip earlier in the week. Probably see it flip again. And by Sunday, I've got to imagine this one will probably kick off as a pick'em. We saw all kinds of movement on both the side and the total. The Chargers opened 1.5. It went to Minnesota -1. Now it's Minnesota catching a point. Total open 51.5, all the way up to 54. And that movement on the total upward, it is for good reason. Both of these defenses have stunk, but you do have to consider the fact that this Minnesota defense, they have defended the pass pretty well. They're actually allowing just $170 a game through the air. Cameron Bynum has 25 tackles from that safety spot. Danielle Hunter continues to put on the pressure. Hunter's got 4 sacks already through a couple of ball games. And as much as people hate Kirk Cousins, guys, he's thrown for over 700 yards already and 6 touchdowns. And of course, his favorite target's been Justin Jefferson. He's got 20 grabs for 309 yards already. And I really look for that duo to carve up this Charger D. LA's allowing more pass yards a game than any other team in the league. And no real surprise here, folks. The Chargers are allowing a league-worst 13.9 yards per completion. Jefferson can be a real problem for these guys. And more bad news for this Charger defense. Kendricks, Bosa, Henley, and Rumpf, they're all questionable to suit up. Austin Eckler is also battling an ankle injury on offense. Meanwhile, for Minnesota, Bradbury, Hicks, Metellus, Naylor, and Davenport, they are questionable for them. Now, total-wise, the Vikes saw their Week 2 matchup with Philly get about 15 points above the posted number. And obviously, the Chargers are 2-0 to the over on the year with that lackluster defense. Give me the Vikings +1 over 54. All right, next matchup, Patriots-Jets. Little AFC East action here. That's a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff. New England is the 2-point favorite on the road. Total's 37. Now, guys, if you watch my videos, you know I've backed the Patriots catching points at Gillette for 2 weeks straight, and both times they failed to cover. This time they're laying points on the road. For some reason, I got to back them again. New England faced 2 very good teams in Philadelphia and Miami. Talk about a grinder to open up the year. Meanwhile, the Rodgers-less Jets, they faced a great team in Dallas last week, and they were hardly competitive toward the end of that game. So, at least the Pats are competing with good teams. The Jets did not. Offensively, the Jets are dead last in completions, dead last in QBR. They're facing a New England defense who has somewhat inflated defensive numbers because they faced 2 of the best offenses in the NFL. So that's why you're seeing their defensive numbers not be all that great. Now, when it comes to offensive production, the Pats can move the football. They actually lead the NFL in completions per game. Mac Jones is throwing for nearly 275 per contest. He's got 4 touchdowns. And the Pats have also done a nice job scoring late. They're officially a top 5 point producing team in the fourth quarter. Sal, Barmore, Owenu, Strange, Parker, Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones, and Trent Brown. They're all questionable for the Pats. Hall, Zerline, Becton, Brown, and Franklin Myers are questionable for New York. 3 out of these teams' last 4 gatherings did fall under the total. So if you're into historical trends, plenty of unders to go around. Give me the Patriots -2 under 37. Next matchup, Bills Commanders, 1 o'clock East. Buffalo's the 6-point favorite, totals 44. And we are seeing some movement toward the under in this one. Total open 46 down to 44. 2-point move on the number. And following a mistake-filled Week 1, the Bills did get back on track, blasting the Raiders in Week 2. It was 38-10 in that one. And even though Josh Allen's prone to making mistakes, he's completing a league-best 77% of his throws. As a team, the Bills are currently in the top 5 in yards per game. They're facing a Washington defense who has had some troubles slowing down the run. Now, they've also been penalty prone as well. The Commanders are committing a league-high 90 penalty yards a game on defense. And I really think the defense kind of costs Washington in this one. Both teams did see their week 2 matchups fly over the total as well. Now, injury-wise, Martin, Thomas, and Payne are questionable for the Commanders. Meanwhile, for Buffalo, Bernard, Phillips, Knox, Hyde, and Floyd are questionable for them. Give me the Bills -6 over 44. Next contest, Panthers, Seahawks, 405 East. Seattle's the 6.5-point favorite at home. Total's 42 and a hook. And even though Seattle put up 37 big points against the Lions, these guys are playing horrible on defense. They're allowing 422 yards a game. That's second worst in the league. They're also allowing 12.5 yards per completion. So basically, when teams throw on them, they're gaining yards in chunks. And make no mistake, the Panthers have competed with quality divisional opponents in weeks 1 and 2. They played the Falcons and the Saints pretty tough in the opening weeks. And when it comes to defensive play, they're tough to move the ball against. Their secondary's in the top 5 in fewest passing yards allowed. Xavier Woods and C.J. Henderson, they have 20 tackles between the both of them. Meanwhile, Frankie Louview's providing a good amount of pressure up front. Now, offensively, I know you're probably going to have concerns, and rightfully so, but I actually think the Panthers can have some success moving the football. They're nearly leading the NFC right now in yards per rush. Now, Wooten, Sanders, Burns, Houston, they're all questionable. Bryce Young didn't practice yesterday, so keep an eye on him. Not really sure what's going on with him, but I've got to imagine, he'll be ready. Now, unfortunately, Shaq Thompson, he was placed on the IR earlier in the week. Won't see him for a while. Now, Seattle on the other side, they've got a slew of guys who are banged up right now. Bush, Cross, Metcalf, Brown, Haynes, Reed, Disley, Love, Bryant, and Woolen are all questionable. Mike Morris, he was placed on the IR. Give me Carolina +6.5, keeping this one close, over 42 and a hook. All right, next ball game, Cowboys, Cardinals, 425 East. Dallas is laying 12 points on the road. Total's 43. And for some reason, we're seeing movement toward the Cardinals. The Cards were catching 13 in the early going. Now it's just 12. Total open 44 down to 43. And we could, regardless of the line movement, we could very well see another Cowboys shutout. Their defense is looking vicious, very aggressive. Micah Parsons has 3 sacks already, 4 tackles for loss, forced fumble recovery. Plus, there's just so much that he does that you don't, see in the stat column. There's a lot in the opposing team's game plan that he affects. Do the Cards use an extra tight end in that particular set? Do they put an extra back in the backfield to block on passing plays? False starts, you got to consider false starts. Just a lot of things that Parsons does. He's a disruptor. He'll disrupt your game plan. Now, offensively, CeeDee Lamb, he's got 220 yards on the season already. And the Cowboys really haven't thrown it much. So great production out of him. Dallas is facing a winless Arizona team who's allowed 51 total points already. They blew, a 20-point lead last week against the Giants. Arizona does not defend the pass well. They're allowing double-digit yards per completion. And offensively, Josh Dobbs is thrown for minimal yards. And his leading receiver is averaging under 9.2 yards per reception. Now, injury-wise, Baker, Fotu, Woods, and Watkins are questionable for the Cards. Smith, Hurst, Cooks, and Martin questionable for Dallas. And when it comes to the total, the Cowboys have allowed just 10 total points this year through a couple of games. Their Week 1 matchup was was indeed a shutout against the G-Men. Could see some more of the same here. Give me Dallas minus 12, under 43 in the tight window. All right, next matchup, Bears-Chiefs, 425 East. Kansas City's minus 12 at home, totals 48. And we have seen considerable line movement on both the side and the total in this one. KC opened 13 down to 12. Total opened 50.5 down to 48. Now, Kansas City has not been overly impressive, but, we're looking at an organization that's so sound right now, you can almost afford to dummy down the playbook a bit and really not put too much on tape, especially when you're facing a team like Chicago. I'm not saying they're not going to try as hard. They're going to put forth max effort, but, there's no real need to put out your go-to third and fourth down calls against Chicago in week 3. You don't want to get that stuff out on tape, calls where you really need a first down or you really need a stop. You don't want to show that. And to be truthful, and Andy Reid's been known to do that, kind of conceal the playbook a little bit early in the year. The Chiefs are definitely doing enough to be efficient. I mean, these guys are averaging over 5.6 yards per play offensively. They're in the top 5 in the AFC in passing yards. When it comes to defensive play, the Chiefs are making opposing quarterbacks uncomfortable. They've held Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff to a 58% passing completion percentage collectively. They're taking on a Chicago offense who continues to struggle. Justin Fields has thrown 3 picks, and he's been sacked 10 times already. Hard to believe last year people were saying he was really good, and the year before. Chicago's leading rusher, Khalil Herbert, he's gaining a pitiful 31 yards a game. Now, injury-wise, Blackwell, Jones, Mooney, Patrick, and Jackson are questionable. Meanwhile, for the Chiefs, Tony, Pacheco, James, Bolton, Gay, and Snead are questionable for them. You are going to want to keep an eye on Bolton and Snead. They are the Chiefs' leading tacklers. Now, total-wise, KC's 2-0 to the under to start the season. Give me the Chiefs minus 12, under 48. Next matchup, Steelers, Raiders, 8:20 p.m. East. Las Vegas is the 2-point favorite. Totals 43. And we did see a flip of the line in this one. The Raiders were catching a point earlier in the week. They were the 1-point dog. That line has moved 3 points toward them. Total also opened at 44.5, down to 43 even. But I do think there's more upside to Vegas than there is to Pittsburgh right now. I do think Jimmy G can exploit a lackluster defense better than Kenny Pickett can in this game. And the Steelers win against Cleveland in week 2. Well, that was strictly catapulted by offensive mistakes by the Browns. The Steelers luckily scored, 2 defensive touchdowns off of offensive mistakes. That's very rare. You don't see that often. And other than that, well, the Steelers just can't move the football. Pittsburgh's second to last in the league in yards per game. They're facing a Raiders secondary who does keep it in front of them. I mean, they did get blasted by Buffalo last week, don't get me wrong. But, that's what Buffalo does. That's what Buffalo is supposed to do. They're going to do that to a lot of teams this year. They're going to do that to a lot of different teams. Buffalo's supposed to whoop your ass. So, the Raiders aren't supposed to be competitive with Buffalo. But anyway, the Raiders allowed under 7.6 yards per completion this year. They're in the top 3 in that category. And we're really kind of looking at a battle of attrition here. Special teams going to be very important. Field goals, punts, field position. Now, injury-wise, Bennett, Smith, Wilson, Epps, Diablo, Myers, Nichols. They're all questionable for Vegas. Meanwhile, Golden, Casey, Washington, Olszewski, Fitzpatrick, and Ogunjobi are questionable for the Steelers. And with the lack of offensive production out of both teams, I think this one will stay under the total. Give me the Raiders minus 2, under 43. All right, we got another doubleheader on Monday Night Football in Week 3. Our first game is the Eagles at the Buccaneers, 7:15 East. Philadelphia is the 4.5-point favorite on the road. Totals 45 and a hook. Now, we did see a 2-point move toward Tampa in this one. The Bucs were catching 6.5. Now down to 4.5. 2-point move. But I'm just not sure Tampa Bay has faced the quality of opponent like Philadelphia. They beat the Bears and Vikings thus far, which they didn't set the world on fire offensively. It was really their defense that kind of kept them hanging tough in those games. Tampa Bay's running for just 2.9 yards per play. And on the defensive side, they are in the bottom 10 in pass yards allowed. They're actually giving up over 10.1 yards per completion. And unfortunately for them, they're facing an Eagles team who completes 71% of their passes themselves. And a real strength of this Philly offense is that O-line. I mean, this is the heartbeat of this team. These guys are, they've just been pushing people around. Philadelphia is gaining more yards a game on the ground than any other offense besides one. And it's a running back by committee. They got 3 different guys that can tote it. And obviously Jalen Hurts is mobile when you need him to be. Now, Bradbury, Blankenship, Gainwell, they're questionable. Maddox tore his pec. He's done. Meanwhile, for Tampa Bay, Dennis, Davis, and Kancey are questionable. Edmonds is on the IR. The Bucs did see their Week 2 contest against the Bears get over the total. Philly's 2-0 to the over themselves. Give me the Eagles -4.5 over 45 and a hook. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final game for the video. Rams at the Bengals, 8:15 East. Cincinnati's the 2.5-point favorite. Totals 43.5. Now, we did see a 1-point move towards Cincy and a 0.5-point move toward the over. And if you want to see whether I'm making a play on the money line total or against the spread in this one, this game's being featured as one of my NFL tier membership package picks on my premium page. And once again, if you sign up for that membership, you're going to get access to my NFL tier membership pick package for the next 30 days. And as an added bonus, you're also going to get access to all of my cheaper memberships absolutely free. They're going to be included with your purchase. But unfortunately, no free pick for that game. And with that, folks, now it is time for our quick pick recap. Give me the Niners -10.5, getting the job done against the number. Ravens -7, under 45. Cleveland Browns -3, over 39.5. I won 2 out of my 3 NFL tier membership package picks on my premium page in Week 2. And the good news is I have 3 more NFL tier membership package picks going off here this week for Week 3. The link is in my bio. Atlanta +3.5, over 46 and a hook. New Orleans +2, under 42.5. Houston Texans +9, over 44. Miami Dolphins -6, over 48. Vikings +1, over 54. Patriots -2, under 37. Buffalo Bills -6, over 44. Panthers +6.5, over 42 and a hook. Cowboys -12, under 43. Kansas City Chiefs -12, under 48. Raiders -2, under 43. Philadelphia Eagles -4.5, over 45 and a hook. And unfortunately, I have no free pick for you in the Rams-Bengals game. And with that, folks, that's going to do it for me. Got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, folks, happy Thursday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.